This is the 90th anniversary of the biggest scandal in the history of sports.
8 players on the Chicago White Sox through the 1919 World Series. One of those 8, Charles Swede Risberg, lived the remaining years of his life in Red Bluff, and his son and daughter-in-law, who lived with and cared for him, live there today. In my exclusive special report, we hear from them and their memories of Swede Risberg, one of the 8 Black Sox.
This one here is my dad.
Robert Risberg shows me a photograph of his father when he was a member of the 1919 Chicago White Sox. History knows them as the Black Sox, and Charles Swede Risberg was one of the 8 players that history says threw the 1919 World Series against the Cincinnati Reds. Books have been written, great ones, including the landmark 8 Men Out, that detail the scandal. Like the book, the film version of 8 Men Out shows Risberg as one of the central figures in the plot. He was played by actor Don Harvey.
What did I tell you, Bucky? He was in the bag all the time.
Shortstop Swede Risberg played poorly in the series and reportedly took home at least $10,000 from gamblers. His son, Robert, now 83, was born 6 years after the scandal. Swede never spoke with them about it, but his mother did when he was 10.
My mother sat down and explained to me what happened, that some of the guys had thrown a ball game, and that my dad and all of them got charged by the grand jury, but they were acquitted.
True, but some say the jury was sympathetic to the Sox. Newly appointed Commissioner Kennesaw Mountain Landis was not.
Landis decided to be a smart guy, and he threw them all out of baseball, and that fixed that.
Robert says the scandal was never a topic of father-son discussions.
He never talked about it at all, no, one way or the other, you know.
You never asked him?
No.
You knew he didn't want to talk about
I
it?
figured he didn't want to, and I figured if he wanted to, he would have, and so I just figured, hey, the thing's dead for years and leave it alone, you know.
Banned from the big leagues, Swede Risberg played and managed semi-pro ball. A native of the state, he moved back to California for good, where he worked in a factory in Weed before owning a tavern called Risberg's.
I can recall lots of guys in Weed and Mount Shasta sitting there at the bar and talking to him about baseball, but nobody ever brought the scandal thing up.
It's a touchy subject for Robert and his wife Audrey, who took care of Swede in their Red Bluff home during the last 13 years of his life, even as they raised their own children.
I've resented all of the talk of that he did anything wrong, because when you live with a man every single day for 13 years, you know him. And there was never a time that I doubted him. Never. I absolutely believe he did nothing wrong because of the kind of man he was. He never had any indication of being a dishonest person, ever.
Swede Risberg died here, then a convalescent home on Luther Road in Red Bluff in 1975 on his 81st birthday. His daughter-in-law told me she cried for 6 months.
I did.
Why?
Because I loved him and I missed him very much.
In Part 2, we will show you where Swede Risberg is laid to rest and how 90 years after baseball's biggest scandal, baseball fans still have a curious fascination with the Black Sox and Swede Risberg. That's tomorrow at 5 o'clock on Action News.